Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every morning to keep you updated or abreast with what all has been happening in the world of sport whilst you were catching up on some all-important rest. Because let's face it, whilst you need sleep, I need sleep, the whole world really does need rest. The world of sport doesn't really sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it's easy to miss out on certain developments if you aren't keeping abreast with it 24/7, which is a very hard thing to do unless you're like us who actually works in the industry of keeping abreast with everything 24/7. So to ensure that you don't have to take the effort to go through a variety of news sources and try and get your morning news, we give it to you all packaged up in this nice little video. So without further ado, let's get straight to it and let's talk about a man who very recently seemingly found himself on the outs of the Indian cricket team from out of nowhere, Shreyas Iyer. Now Shreyas Iyer doesn't seem to be feature when it comes to the T20I squads, which is a problem given it's a T20 World Cup here. And there is talk that he could potentially lose out on his starting spot in the Test 11 as well, given that Rahul, who pretty much competes for the same position with him, but will no longer be seen keeping wickets in this series, instead be used as a specialist batter. Well, he could very well walk in given his form in the last Test series. So there has been plenty of talk about how exactly it is that things are happening in that way, and it's worth noting that Iyer himself recently went to play a Ranji Trophy game. So it's pretty evident that, there is let's say things to be ironed out, or in his own words, as he said, it's about keeping match fit. But he was asked about really what all has been going on and the sudden churn, and he said very simply, look, I thrive on competition, so as long as there is competition for spots, that's a good thing. I don't particularly mind it. So Iyer's response, quite frankly, is bring it on. I'm okay with the competition. I will overcome and I will actually move forward. He was asked about the T20Is and said, look, I don't want to comment on what's happening there. Focused on the present. I'm focused on the here and now. He also spoke about, the reason why he played this Ranji match and why he was happy with his showing, because he went on, looked to attack, didn't get a 50, got out on 48, but he was asked to play the match. He played the match, and it will help him, in his own words, keep in match fitness and ensure that he stays sharp. Because as he said, it doesn't really matter what kind of pitch it is that is going to be here in this case, because again, the pitch didn't seem like a spinning one, but that once the India-England series starts, you're only going to be getting very spinning track. So definitely some fighting words, you can say, from Shreyas Iyer, and we'll do a separate video on it as well. But it's interesting to see that he's not necessarily backed down from the challenge of what will be a tough task, let's say, of reclaiming his spot across formats. Now, speaking of him, and now actually transitioning out to the man that he essentially replaced in the Test side, Ajinkya Rahane, who's also his Ranji Trophy captain. Rahane himself has his sights set on an India return. That is despite the fact that the last time he played was in the West Indies, didn't have a great outing, hasn't been looked at since. Rahane said, no, it doesn't matter. I have two major goals right now in my career. One, I want to help Mumbai win the Ranji Trophy again. And two, I want to make a comeback to the Indian team and be able to play 100 tests. Now, that's a lofty goal when you consider both the fact that Rahane is 35 years old, but also the fact that he's only played 85 tests. That means he'd have to play at least 15 more tests. 15 tests, by the way, is pretty much one whole WTC cycle for a lot of teams, which means that he'd be targeting a comeback in the not so distant future, or rather in the immediate future, whilst also hoping that he will consistently feature in both home and away conditions. It's definitely a tall ask, but hey, it's a good thing that a cricketer as seasoned as Rahane, one who, truth be told, doesn't really have that much to prove, still going on and going out to prove to everyone that he can be a good batter for the national team at the highest level. Pretty big thing. And speaking of batters who have been doing well for the Indian team at the national level, well, it's good news if you are a fan of either Shivam, Dube or Yashasvi Jaiswal, because big news, both of them are set to be included in the pool of BCCI's centrally contracted players for the 2023-24 season. You have that right. Both of these players are said to be rewarded for what have essentially been very, very good showings in the recent past when it comes to T20I cricket. And there are different reasons why both of them are being given this contract potentially. With Jaiswal, he is at least right now a two-format player. He's been a feature in the Test cricket since making his debut against the West Indies, and over the past year has been very, very impressive in T20I cricket, where his fearless intent and wonderful strike rate have caught the eye of many. With Dube, granted, he's only been playing T20I cricket for India in recent times, but the fact of the matter is, if you're in India or fast bowling all-rounders or even medium-pace bowling all-rounders are a dime a dozen. You don't get a lot of players who can do both roles competently well, and Dube right now is the closest you have in that regard, who can potentially be a backup to someone like Hardik Pandya. So that is why Dube too is potentially being considered, which is interesting because again, if he's a centrally contracted player, then you'd think that you'd soon see Dube play even potentially ODIs as well, where he could actually do okay as a sixth bowling option, especially if you bowl him mostly in the middle overs. I mean, could be more expensive than Shardul Thakur, right? So there is actually interesting signs really that the BCCI is looking to lock down the futures of two younger players, give them central contracts, ensure that they're there and thereabouts in the scheme of things, and truth be told, their performance is absolutely warranted. Switching our focus now from the world of cricket to the world of football, and Lionel Messi ended up winning the FIFA Men's Player of the Year award. Bit of a controversial decision, but given the fact that he's already won the Ballon d'Or, wasn't really that much of a surprise. And it's also worth noting that the FIFA Men's Player and Women's Player of the Year awards both are actually given thanks to votes that are made from the national captains of all teams, similar to the Ballon d'Or. So given that you were pretty much going to be expecting the same result, it's not that much of a surprise. And the other thing, and the valid criticism that is there to be made about Messi's season, is the fact that whilst he did win the World Cup with Argentina, he didn't have the greatest of club seasons with either PSG or Inter Miami, albeit he did win that trophy with Inter Miami, but that's not really saying much. That being said though, the key thing worth noting is the fact that he won the World Cup, and when it comes to World Cup years, you have seen the votes kind of get skewed towards players who have done well in the World Cup. So it does make sense that Messi has ended up winning it. And it was Marti who won the women's equivalent of the FIFA Player of the Year award, or the FIFA Women's Player of the Year award. She was the standout performer for both Spain as well as Barcelona. So no surprise that she ended up winning it. And of course, it's been an interesting year when you're looking at it for both for Spain, because whilst they did win the World Cup, don't forget they won the Euros as well. There has been a lot of controversy surrounding the team, of course, thanks to, of course, the entire Luis Rubiales scandal that took place afterwards. And she did, of course, have a bit of a nod saying that, I would dedicate this award to my teammates who've been going through a lot. So good on her as well for bringing that up. But also congratulations to Marti for winning the FIFA Women's Player of the Year award. A little bit more football news this time, not so happy news, especially if you are a supporter of Nottingham Forest or Everton. Well, both have been charged with breaching the Premier League's profit and sustainability rules. Now, that's a massive thing, but not entirely surprising, at least in Nottingham Forest case, given that when they got promoted, I think they signed, 31 players, and there were always chances that they were going to be there and thereabouts, or the margins would be very fine when it came to them, let's say, being able to, make it as far as the profit and sustainability rules were concerned. Them getting charged, not that much of a surprise. For Everton, bit of a double whammy given that they were already charged and hit with a points deduction earlier this season, a points deduction that they have now appealed, but another charge means they could potentially be set for another points deduction. That is pretty massive, to put it politely, but hey, that is just how it goes. Many would argue that this is actually a case of the Premier League picking easy targets, given that there is a Manchester City team there that have 115 charges on them from the Premier League on breaching the sustainability rules. But that's a debate for another time. And it's a valid point, because again, with City, you haven't seen any kind of action whatsoever being taken, but smaller clubs do seem to be the easier targets. That being said, on the other side, there is a positive to look at, in the sense that it's good that the Premier League is finally buckling down, clamping down on a lot of unnecessary spending, even if it is going for the rather softer targets, because hey, if you break the rules, you should be punished. Lastly, a couple of bits of news. Andy Murray crashed out of the Australian Open first round itself. He was pretty optimistic coming into the Australian Open that he could have a decent showing. Wasn't to be the case, unfortunately. Lost out in the first round, and he admitted afterwards in the press conference that this could very well be the last time you've seen him play in Australia. Now, that's a big hint, especially when you consider that the next Australian Open will of course take place in 2025, but it does show that Murray is perhaps looking at winding down his career and stepping away from the court. Don't forget, he had those major surgeries on his hip, which is essentially a hip replacement surgery, and since then he said that I'm lucky to even be playing at all, never mind competing at the top level. But it does seem like maybe his body is beginning to give up on him, which is why he's saying that, look, this could very well have been the last time I played the Australian Open. Last bit of news, but not the least, we're going to the world of Formula 1. Toto Wolff, the Mercedes team principal and part team owner, has confirmed that he has signed a new contract with the team to remain in that team principal role for 3 years. 3 more years. That's a pretty big thing when you consider that Toto Wolff was in fact the man who started Mercedes' run of dominance in 2014. And even though the last couple of years haven't been that great for the team, it's good in a way that Toto is continuing on in his role again. If there's anyone you'd expect who'd be able to correct the ship, it would be Wolff. And Wolff has confirmed that, he will be working on giving his drivers, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell, a title-winning car for the 2024 season. Whether or not that can happen, well, we'll only know on February 14 because that's when they'll be launching their car. But either way, good news that he signed a new deal. That's it from us on this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you enjoy our work, please don't forget, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, leave us a comment, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. For now though, from my side, it's goodbye.